This is
The Grove Podcast.
Hello, my name is Tabs and welcome to episode 190 of the Grove Podcast. Now, thank you for listening and I hope you're all doing very well, whatever it is that you do when there's not a lot of Arsenal in your life. Talking of which, Arsenal news is a bit thin on the ground at the moment. Various rumours around potential signings here and there, but nothing concrete and not much else. There have been various changes to our medical team that have been in the news, and we're actually going to be doing a special on that very topic with friend of the pod, Mitch, or to give him his full proper title, Dr. Andrew Mitchell, who's a British academic specialising in sports science and biomechanics and has actually worked with Arsenal and the medical team in the past, so he can offer some great insights into that, the roles, what it means, the impact for next year. So yeah, keep an ear and eye out for that. Hopefully, coming towards the end of the week, weekend, or beginning of next week. As for today's show, some of you may have noticed that there's a World Cup going on in North America, across Canada, Mexico, and the US. Along with that, we all know that Arsenal have a very strong connection with the US in terms of our ownership, the Cronkies, but also in terms of our ever-expanding fan base. So what I wanted to do today is sort of combine those two and speak with someone about the World Cup, about how it's been received in America, both in the build-up and now that the tournament is well underway. I think we're match 83, 84 out of 104, and now we're getting towards the business end of things, and as well as understanding what it's like to be an Arsenal fan in America and what that experience is like, especially now that we are champions. We not forget. So joining me today is someone I've been following for a while on the socials, someone who posts frequently and insightfully about Arsenal and football in general, but also she has a very good substack, which I highly recommend you taking a look at, called Football Without Borders. So all the way from New York, New Jersey, welcome to the Grove Podcast, Carla Espinal. How are you doing today? How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good. Excited about this chat. Looking forward to hearing your thoughts and yeah, just to understand more about how the World Cup is being received in America, how it's going, and then also what it's like to be a fan of Arsenal. Sort of. So I mean, I sort of live in and around London. I'm not close. I'm not in Islington and stuff like that. But for someone in the US, and we know we've got such a wide fan base over there, it'd be really interesting to see, just sort of combine those two and to see how things are going. So with the immediate news, like, how are you feeling now that the USA qualified for round of 16 yesterday? I mean, they're facing a very fortunate and uninspiring Belgian team in the next round. So yeah, how do you feel about that? How do you rate your chances?
You caught me on an amazing morning. I had been buzzing all morning. A year ago, I would have said, just get us into the knockout rounds and I'll be happy. That was the state of this team a year ago. The last 4 years have been some of the most miserable as a USMNT fan. The changes, the rebuild, the figuring out the identity, the squad changes. It's been a rough time. And I, along with many fans, we didn't know what to expect from this team. And I mean, the first game against Paraguay, I genuinely, I did not think that team was capable of putting a performance like that. And even last night, going down to 10 men and having to defend the 1-0 lead for over 30 minutes, I really didn't think that team was capable of it. And to show that resilience and that grit, the combination of the now slightly more technical quality in the team with the kind of the grittiness of what the American identity is combined into one has been probably the most, it's brought me so much joy. So yeah, we're buzzing right now. It's a good day. But yeah, I mean, Belgium, we'll see what happens. If Balogun had not gotten a red card yet last night, I would have been like, we're getting into the quarters. I just don't see how we couldn't have. It's going to be a little bit more tough without Balogun. He's been one of, if not the best player for us. So we'll see. But I think that with the home crowd, anything is possible, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, here it was like 1 o'clock in the morning and I was already falling asleep to Belgium Senegal. How I fell asleep during that game, I don't know. Actually, I fell asleep at at full time, and I woke up just as the penalty was being VAR'd, and so okay, I'm woken up at the right time. But so I couldn't stay up for the America game. They have a thing here called no spoilers, and so you can watch highlights in the morning without knowing the results. So I caught it this morning, and the first thing, I mean, that Balogun, the red card, I mean, it's a tough one because it does look horrible. But is it accidental? So it's that borderline. Is it a sending off? Isn't it a sending off? What were your thoughts? Harsh or fair?
So oftentimes I get yelled at because I believe that if studs are up, I'm usually pretty harsh with that. Like, just send them off, even if it's not intentional. There's nothing about intent in the rule book. It's whether or not it's reckless or endangering the opponent. My issue with it is that there have been other situations where it's not been given as red.
You're referencing the Messi one.
Yeah, that was the most recent. He didn't even get a yellow card, and it was almost the exact same tackle. And I mean, in Balogun's wasn't really even a tackle; it was a coming together that unfortunately ended up like that. And I mean, even Havertz a few months ago had a very similar.
Burnley.
Where he ended up with just a yellow. So again, it always comes back to consistency, right? Of like how that's where my frustration is. If all of these, if we're going to say it's a red, then it has to be across the board. But the way I see it is, if that was if that had happened to one of our players, I would have wanted to see a red. So I can't be hypocritical about it and change my mind just because
Yeah, no,
coming back to bite us.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was half an hour to go because they didn't give like the timing. So that is incredible. And actually in the highlights, it looked like the US even dominated the person. Bosnia and Herzegovina didn't really have much of a look in, and there were, I mean, 2-0 did not look like it flattered the US, and to get that second goal at the time that it did, it killed it off. But it looks like they had chances beforehand. So, and so what difference has how much of this is down to Pochettino, because it seems like he's had a lot of flack in the past, but now everyone's sort of on it behind him. So what difference has he made, and how's he been received?
I was getting into arguments with people a year, like last September. People were saying, calling for his head to bring someone else in. I have, like, from the beginning, I saw what he was trying to do. I mean, it's tough. He comes in, he came into a shambolic situation. It was really bad, the state of this team, and he had to spend some time learning players, learning who was going to fit his system the best, who was up for the fight. And Poch, like, he needs players that have technical quality, but he also wants players that are going to fight for their position. So it was a weird balance, and all of these, friendlies that we'd be seeing where we'd lose, or it just wasn't showing any sort of change. From appearances, it didn't show. Like, if you're just looking at results, it didn't seem like he was doing much. But behind the scenes, what he's been trying to work on is the identity aspect of this. And something that a lot of people had been saying is that they didn't feel connected with this team. There was nothing that was pulling them towards that team. And I get that. That is not the case anymore. I mean, I do think that Poch has a lot to do with this squad. I think all of our starters right now, every single one of the starters on that pitch yesterday, they all play in a top 5 league in Europe. And so right now what they need is someone who understands that level of excellence that is required to play on a stage like that. Someone who is highly competitive, who knows the opposition, and who has was more in tune with the style of, the modern style of play. And I think that that's what's been missing, and he's able to translate that and bring belief in really create a sense of unity in the squad. And but still, I mean, I genuinely did not think that team was capable of any of it. But I think he deserves all the credit, honestly.
And you mentioned there that that now people are behind them, and look, I think nowhere more sort of loves a winner than the US, shall we say? So if you're winning, you're up here, and if you're losing, sorry, we're not even interested. Yep. So I think that has, and and has it gone beyond your football fans? So how's it captured? Yeah, the nation, and the US is very big, so it's hard to tell.
The entire country.
Yeah,
The
the
entire
entire
country is locked in right now.
yeah.
I mean, just thinking about it is giving me chills right now. After the game last night, I immediately went onto socials to look for the celebration videos. I didn't go out last night. We at the last minute decided to just watch the game from home, and so I immediately went onto socials to look for all the celebration videos. And my jaw was on the floor. The gatherings, the fan zones, the watch parties all across the country, all the cities across the country. I mean, it is incredible. I mean, I'm talking to friends who do not care about. They don't even watch once every 4 years. They don't even tune in for the World Cup final, and they're tuning in not just to the U.S. team. They're tuning into the World Cup, which is shocking to me. I genuinely didn't expect this level of reception. Um, I expected people to be somewhat interested, but I didn't. The viewership numbers that we're seeing. I mean, Fox reported yesterday that 84 million Americans have tuned in to watch at least one World Cup game. And that's just on Fox. That doesn't include the other broadcaster, Telemundo, which is broadcasting in Spanish, which is accounting for like 45% of the viewership. So combined, we're seeing a massive, like this is drawing massive amounts of Americans. I'm seeing every single day posts from people now saying that they want to start watching the sport more. The Premier League is going to be the biggest winner, I think, of this World Cup. So many people are going to be tuning in, whether it's to follow players that they're discovering or just to, continue living and breathing this emotional, like the emotional roller coaster that is football.
I mean, yeah. I mean, this is the way with World Cups, especially if the home nation or nations in this case do well. So, like Mexico are doing well, Canada are doing well. This is always what they want, and not only does it keep interest in the tournament, it keeps the color going. It's really good. And in the US particularly, I think it's important for football, soccer, because it's competing against the other big three. So it always seems to be the distant cousin to those three sports in trying to eyeing up attention, getting eyeballs on it, getting people to go. Do you think this will go beyond that? Do you think this will suddenly have an impact? So when does the MLS season start again?
So it'll restart again once the World Cup is over. I think it's like the week after.
Really? So that's soon. So you think that will get this, as well as Messi? Do you think this will add another bump to because Messi obviously had a big influence?
He keeps it up. Oh yeah, we're gonna see another Messi mania.
Yeah.
I do. I think the MLS is going to be a little bit more of a work in progress. We're last week, NYCFC, there were rumors that they want to try to bring Pulisic in, which would be really interesting, especially if, the US can get to the quarterfinals. I think it would be a really interesting thing for him to leave Europe and come back to the MLS. I think it would probably bring a lot of people into watching NYCFC. The problem with the MLS is that it still needs to work hard to bring people in and to make people aware of where the stadiums are, where people are playing, who is who. And since a lot of MLS players aren't in the World Cup, they're not exposed to the same level as abroad. And I think that something I've been thinking about a lot, and this is very much an American thing, but I think it's happening with just younger generations all over the world, is that people are beginning to get attracted to the sport because of players. They first learn about a player and then start following the sport.
Yeah. That's a very, very. I think that's. Sorry to interrupt, because I noticed this. I noticed this a lot as well, because I'm a big fan of American sports, like a big NFL fan. Like I said, I often say this. I always say this. My favorite sports program of all sports programs throughout, including football, is Red Zone on a Sunday. That is my favorite ever thing to watch whenever, and I miss it dearly, and so on. But yeah, it does feel like. And we can touch on it now. You did right. I don't know if this was part of it, but watching American sports a lot, it is a lot more sometimes about the individual, and it's also happened now with the younger generation, with Messi, with Mbappe, with Ronaldo. You end up following individuals rather than or it's a combination of the both, and whereas the more old school fans and the rest, it's more about the team, and players come and go, but it's always about the team. But I think the younger generation. But so are you trying to say it's going to be a bit harder with this? So who are those US stars, or who are the people in the MLS that you can, because they've tried, didn't they? Because they brought in the Beckhams, the Ibrahimovic, and they brought the Messis. So I guess you need to find that American superstar to really sort of join it together.
And I mean, even people who don't really watch the sport, they know that the MLS isn't great when you're comparing it to the best leagues in the world. Although there's definitely worse leagues out there. I
of course.
with that. But they are also, there's this repetition of the same thing, that it's a retirement league. That Messi's here, but like he's not here in his prime. So finding something I said after the last World Cup was that the MLS needs to get to a point where they're not bringing in people who are on the verge of retiring, but they need to start bringing the like early 30s who have kind of they've accomplished what they wanted to accomplish in Europe. They're not the biggest stars in the world, but they're solid, and figure out ways to bring them to the MLS instead of going to Saudi or going to going to Turkey or something like that. So figuring out a way to bring those like early 30 somethings, and I mean, someone like Pulisic is still so young. I think
actually, how old is he? Because I think he's old. 20.
He's about to turn 28 this summer, I think.
Really, that all? He's actually impressed me. His speed, and unfortunately, he's ex-Chelsea, but his and I was going to mention Poch about Spurs, so, but no, he's. I forgot about how good he actually was, and why they brought him to the Premier League in the first place. He looks like an impressive player, but yeah, that would be huge. I mean, given what you just said, that would be huge if you could get him there, and he could sort of be like the American face of the MLS.
And he's just like he's got the image of your American neighbor next door. He's just got the look. So I think it would be really interesting. But at the same time, like if he feels like he hasn't accomplished everything, then stay in Europe for a couple more years, and then hopefully you can come in.
And so it does sound like the World Cup is being really received well, and even like in the host cities. How much have you noticed the presence of the World Cup you're in New Jersey, but obviously New Jersey, New York. How is that coming across in the different towns? And what I've loved seeing, and I've seen clips of this, was like the commentators at baseball matches getting all having great fun watching like the Scottish fans that took over Fenway Park.
You see the English fans yesterday?
The English fans were at the Braves game yesterday, and the commentators are and they're singing and dancing, and they're like so different to your usual sleepy baseball crowd. It's sort of like, oh my God, they're like, what on earth is going on here? And there's like this novelty factor. Yeah. But yeah, how's that all working out?
So for me, I live in a town that is a very pro football fan, very pro. The sport almost originated here in the late 1800s when Scottish immigrants arrived to New Jersey, and this town has a lot of history when it comes to the sport. So for me, I've been seeing the excitement for weeks and months ahead. I mean, my neighbors, since April, people have been talking, like, are you getting ready? Do you have tickets yet? Are you going to any games? And people have been gearing up for it. Now outside of if I look out at any of my windows, like you see Portuguese, there's a big Portuguese Brazilian community, in my vicinity. And everyone has their flags out. People are just wearing football shirts everywhere. Like you can't go anywhere without seeing a football shirt. And it's always kind of been like that. It's something that's I'm very used to seeing, but not at this scale. And it's for the most part locals. And this is the part where I know that if this administration hadn't taken these measures and, had this aggressive tone towards visitors, this could have been even better. Because what we're missing right now is an influx of international travelers. The diehard fans that are, the supporters for England or for Scotland or Germany, they're all here. They came, but not the masses. And so that is the part where I get frustrated, because I'm like, if this is how it's been with all of these issues that are unrelated to the sport, that are just political, which are very important issues, mind you, but they're not really related to the actual game. And what could it have been like if we didn't have these narratives and this aggressive tone and this anti-immigrant stance going on? And there's nothing we can do. We have to make the best. That's the approach I went about it, is like, it's here, let's make the best out of what we have. And but people are, the more it goes on, the more excited people have been getting.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to touch on that. I did wonder, because all the build up, and lots of World Cups have it. In Russia, speaks for itself. There's always going to be controversy about the build up there.
It's like it's like part of the like, just part of it now.
Yeah, basically FIFA sports washing the world, basically. But and then we had Qatar with the issues around that, and then I know this one felt different because it didn't need to be this way. You can see historically with Russia and Qatar, those are base issues just with who they are. But it feels like, and this is the thing, and it's always the way with these World Cups, and I sort of like it but hate it. It was like, and we did a pod a couple of weeks ago, and we said as soon as the football starts, everyone's going to forget about this, and I feel we shouldn't, but it's really hard to sort of split the two, and because and are those issues still being talked about, or was it just the usual? Basically, we'll ride it out. Trump will ride it out. Infantino will ride it out, because as soon as the football starts, everyone's going to forget about it. It is what it is, and people are going to be distracted. Like, oh, look, here's this shiny thing over here, so now no one's worried about the issues. Or is there still pushback? Because we talked about the immigration stuff, but it's not just that. The pricing of tickets. Now, you can maybe speak more to your experience, because you went to France, Sweden last minute the other day. The price gouging around transport, the fact that a $13 trip that I've myself have done from New York to MetLife suddenly costs $150, and everything around that. Is that still in play? Because here we're just watching the sport, but is it still in play? There is that still being talked about at all?
To an extent. I think that I think a lot of us were worried a few months ago when it was said that ICE would be at games. I actually have not heard any instances of ICE being at any of the matches. I don't know if they're just there kind of undercover, or if maybe it's kind of been like, let's not talk about it. They're not actually going to show up. We just wanted to scare people, which is just as bad. But I think that has helped a lot, is the fact that they've kind of, they haven't been in the picture whatsoever. If they were actually showing up to games and, to fan zones and causing issues, it would be a disaster. The fact that it's kind of been relatively like, okay, do your thing, we won't interfere from the administration's perspective. It does seem that like everyone is kind of the tempers have kind of been lowered a little bit. In terms of Iran, I think that was a very upsetting situation, and it still is for a lot of people. The way that they've been treated is horrible. It is not fair that how they've been blocked entry, and just in general, family members not being able to come in, people who work for different teams. I think a photographer, or who was it? Someone's photographer hasn't been able to get into the country. So, there's all these like things that are happening in the background that we're aware of. But like you said, as soon as they kick the ball, it's like that it consumes you. You just kind of get so, you fall into the sport and you just kind of let the sport do the talking. And, I don't even know how we go. How do we go from here if you're not?
You don't go anywhere. It will pass and it'll be forgotten. Like lots of things, the news cycle continues and it'll be on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And it's unfortunate. And it sort of highlights a lot of things, but doesn't really change anything. Unfortunately,
No,
it just makes things. It just shows up who these people are to the world. Like especially Infantino and FIFA, in terms of what they've done around the ticketing and the pricing and stuff like that, that's been an absolute shit show. Like it's been crazy. I mean, I heard someone spending like $9,000 just to get to the England game yesterday in Atlanta, sort of thing. Like
It was,
it's because they know people are going to pay it. That's the thing. People are desperate enough to pay
that's
it.
the thing. What is so upsetting is that I fully feel taken advantage of. I mean, it was disgusting. It's like the Infantino literally was like, we're gonna just do whatever because they're Americans, they've got money, and they're gonna spend it. They don't know any better. And this is something that this was where I was like, especially trying to warn people when the ticket prices initially came out back in December, or whenever it was, maybe January. I made a video about this and said, for us that follow this sport on a regular basis, we know that these prices are absurd. But if you are someone who's just like a casual fan or tuning in for the first time and you want to go to a game, you might end up buying something that is ridiculously overpriced and you won't know any better. And that is the person that they're trying to target, is that person who doesn't actually know any better. And I mean, this is exactly what ended up playing out, right? Like almost everyone I know that follows the sport religiously waited to buy tickets at the last minute, waited until prices dropped, because we knew that those prices, I mean, there's a lot of drama going on in terms of the pricing. I'm not even going to lie to you that this has been the ongoing thing because they're manipulating the value of the ticket, or allegedly, I should say, because
No, they are. It's fine. It's fine.
they're being a little,
Yeah.
allegedly
Yeah.
manipulating the value of the pricing. And there's been a lot of issues. Like, for example, when South Korea got knocked out, FIFA allegedly did not allow for the South Korean fans to put up their tickets for resale in masses. They were blocking people from reselling their ticket on their platform because they didn't want, allegedly, a huge volume. Because when you have a lot, when you have this quantity, the value drops.
Yeah,
and so there's been a ton of stories of this situation happening. And if you were to go and watch some clips from that game that ended up being Canada versus who did they play? South Africa.
Yes, Canada, South Africa. Yeah, it was. It was the first round of 32 games.
You'll notice that the stadium was a lot emptier than it has been.
Well, that's it. I mean, they've done well with the color of the seating and maybe my eyesight. Yeah, I can't tell how full the stadiums are and whatnot. And look, I'm familiar with the secondary market or the resale market in the US is. I mean, I've been to see a lot of US sport. It's the only way that I've been able to get tickets for NFL, MLB, and NBA and stuff like that, and even MLS sort of stuff. So I know, and I also know ticketing prices is more expensive in America than in general elsewhere. But this seems to have gone egregiously high. So you've been able to benefit. So if you're in the know, you just wait until late on, and then they become affordable, shall we say? I'm not going to ask you how much you paid, but they become.
I mean, affordable is
to a point.
Yeah, to a point.
Yeah, it's what you're prepared to pay to go and see a World Cup game of Saliba versus Gyökeres. Yes.
Yeah, no, it was. So I've gone to 2 games. My husband and I. We went to a group stage game. It was not France. It was Norway versus Senegal. That was great. That was also a last minute purchase. And then we went to obviously
France, Sweden.
to France,
Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah. And that was at MetLife, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also, we purchased that one the day before, and yeah, I mean, it was we lucked out in that sense. I mean, but we've been checking. I mean, I was obsessively checking for weeks. Every single day. I was analyzing all the resale platforms, comparing prices, looking at seats, seeing how like the prices would change, like shift throughout the day, and then try to time it out to get the best pricing. For the first one that we went to, we did not time it out right. Prices like 2 weeks before were in a like they were plummeting, and I really thought that they were going to plummet more. And then I was like, I think we can do better. Let's wait. And it got really, I mean, it got really cheap at one point, and we waited, and then the next day prices started ticking back up again, and I was like, oh. So
well,
we ended up, yeah, lesson learned. The next
yeah,
time that
but
we just
but
jumped
it
on.
must have been amazing to at least go to these games and all the atmosphere. So, I mean, this aside, like how actually have you enjoyed the? I mean, it's great that the US are doing well, and the other home nations. I know your thoughts on Mexico may not may not be the same, but you know, I mean, how have you actually found the World Cup as a whole? I mean, personally, you know, because of the build-up and stuff, I sort of wanted it, and this was just because of Infantino and Trump and whatever. I didn't want it to go so well because they'll
Yeah,
get some reflective glory from us. It would be because of what we did, but no, it's got nothing to do with what you did. But for me, it has been a really good World Cup. And I was also a bit skeptical about the 48 teams and
yeah.
stuff like that. But I think it's been a lot of fun, a lot of goals, really good goals, very colourful. And it actually does feel like a proper World Cup in inverted commas. I said with the three countries, with these smaller nations, like we had, you know, DR Congo giving England a good run for their money, you know, Cape Verde and the stuff like that. I think that actually been pretty cool World Cup despite all the BS beforehand. So yeah. How have you enjoyed it?
I sympathize. I mean, I sympathize with what you just said. Before this started, I was kind of like, "Ugh, I hope this fails. Like what they've done to us with the pricing, with all this BS from the administration. Like I was just like, I was exhausted. I was like, I don't want them to get any credit if this is successful. But, unfortunately, I do have to give credit for the expansion of the World Cup. I was so skeptical, and it has actually been probably the most fun is seeing these teams give European teams especially a run for their money.
Yeah,
I'm like, wow, this has been so cool, and seeing, and this is one of the benefits of having this happen in the United States, and probably something that like I think people know this but don't think about it very much, is how diverse this country is. There's representation from all corners of the world. So you have fans from the tiniest of nations that are able to show up in numbers to some degree, representing their country. And they're for the most part, a lot of them live here in the United States. They're not coming from abroad. Like they're not coming directly from Cabo Verde. They're not coming from Curacao. So they're actual locals. And that seeing their passion, like seeing them at the stadiums and the celebrations and the emotions, it's like this is what this is all about. And yeah, I have to agree. The game, the tournament, it's been amazing so far. It's been so much fun. I haven't watched every single game because I do have to sleep still, but I have watched most of them. The ones that I struggle once it's like after 10 p.m. I'm like I'm starting to fall by halftime. But yeah, it's been incredible. The goals have been incredible. That ball, the way that they designed it, it's just been like golazo after golazo. I'm
yeah.
obsessed.
It has been incredible. Yeah, I also I was like, yeah, I'm from Italian origin, so I was a bit sort of like, well, we're not going to do that well, so I'm not actually that interested and stuff like that. And actually, it allows me to watch it without a skin in the game because
Yeah.
I'm indifferent with regards to England, and it means I can sort of watch it, without being too concerned about who we're going to play this like that. I mean, it would have been great if actually Italy were there, because you can imagine like if they were in New York or New Jersey playing at MetLife. Could you imagine? Or the Irish were there as well. Could you imagine the place would have just like they did in '94, wasn't it? '94.
Yes.
Yeah. So that would have been nuts.
So my husband is he's from Jamaica originally, but he grew
Yeah.
up in a town near where we live now that is like it's basically entirely Italian Americans. And like think of the Sopranos cast, and that is what we're talking
All the
about.
stereotypes are true.
They would have all it would have just been an Italian party. It would have been insane. And yeah, that would have, I mean, it makes me a little bit happy because that they're not in it, because
Yeah, it's fine.
it would have been a little obnoxious, but at the same
Yeah.
time, then it would have been very loud and
Yeah.
just really
Pretty good.
crazy.
Well, that's why I was happy that you guys beat Bosnia and Herzegovina, because they were the ones that knocked us out on penalties
Yes, I know.
in the
I mean, I
qualifying.
was like, it's gonna be like a repeat of, versus Italy.
Yeah, so that was nuts. I'm pleased it's going well, and also what I'm also pleased about is that these ad breaks dressed up as hydration breaks, now they're getting constantly booed, which is really good. That is sort of like those again. It's just things like that. How are for the uninitiated, I guess. Oh well, no one thinks any of it. But for me and you, we're sort of like, what the hell? It's like, imagine the NFL games that they come over and play in the UK or in Europe, and we said, actually, no, can we just do 2 halves of 30? We're not going to have 2 quarters and stuff like that. It's sort of like, yeah. And so I'm really pleased that those breaks are, and they are ad breaks.
Yeah, they are ad breaks. And what I love is that Fox is currently they've changed. When it first started, they were just going straight cut to commercial for the whole 3 minutes, basically. And they've now decreased it. They don't cut for the whole time. And now they even put up a smaller screen with with the view of the pitch. It's still very, but they're making concessions because they're seeing that people aren't actually enjoying it. I do unfortunately think FIFA's going to try to figure out a way to keep them in, and I worry about what that's going to do to the game as a whole.
Well, I mean, they do these things by stealth, or they normalize it. And look, what's happening here, and again, it really grinds my gears, is now even the commentators or the pundits, they're talking about quarters now. So already it's just there, and it's there, and it's not
yesterday. Tuchel said he used that phrase yesterday. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and it's nuts. And look, we know, fine, if they want to drink 30 seconds, right, do it in the middle of the pitch and be gone with it. So we know they're dressing it up, and it's a shame these things happen. And look, actually, talking about pundits, and I forgot I was going to ask this question, but I wrote it down. What's the beef with Lallas? Why does everyone hate him? And I've seen this constantly, and I'm ignorant to the why, but I've never heard anyone say a good word for him. And all I know about Alexi Lallas is that goal he scored against England back in the day when he had a long ponytail in a friendly, with the big ginger locks flowing everywhere. But what's the deal with Lallas? He's even getting trolled by Abramovich and Henry in face to face.
I've never seen someone more universally hated. I really haven't. I mean, it does not matter what your belief system is. Like he's just unlikable.
So it's something that Democrats and Republicans agree on. Then there we go.
Yeah. So I think for Democrats, it's not just the fact that he doesn't know what he's talking about. The sport, like he's one of those stereotypical Americans. He's that thinks we're better than we are. That is just like so cocky and condescending and like talks down on people. But then he also just isn't that insightful of an analyst. So it's like, and he doesn't really have charisma either. So it's just like, even if you do agree with him politically, because he does lean towards the right, you still aren't getting like the depth of analysis that you're getting with some of these other analysts. So I think it's just like, and also, I mean, I have friends that are, conservatives and they they want smart people. Like they want smart people talking about the sport, like that is like the biggest pet peeve for anyone who follows the sport religiously in this country, is that fact that we kind of haven't, it's like this obsession with doing things a very American way that sounds like, it's like copying what they do in the NFL or the NBA. And that's not really the flow of the game, of this game, especially if this, so yeah.
It's just weird that just everyone hates him.
Yeah,
I just don't know why.
Rebecca Lowe said that everything is good in the studio, that they all love each other, and that it's actually, really great between all of them. But so if she says it, I guess I believe it, but I don't know. It seems like there's like a little tension there.
It's just very funny to watch. So there we go. Look, I mean, as far as Arsenal concerned and the World Cup, so we've got still quite a few players go, through like, we had the Arsenal, the England boys yesterday, the 4 of them through, Trossard, Just, Nelly, Big G, all through to the round of 16, obviously Odegaard and Saliba. So, my view on all of this was, I just want them home as early as possible. I don't care about them, their personal, affiliations to the cup. And yes, it's great for them, blah, blah, blah. But I just want them on the beach. So I'm pleased for Havertz. I'm pleased for Gyökeres. I'm pleased for Hincapié. But the person I'm most worried about is Rice. He
knew
just
you were going to say that.
absolutely shattered. Yeah, he had an ice pack on his hammy yesterday. He's taking corners from both sides. I think he's doing the sandwiches before the game. I think he's doing the kits. He's playing right back. I mean, next they're going to give him a pair of gloves because Pickford's a load of shit.
No.
It's he's just everything. It's just like he needs a break, man. We're not going to see him until 2027 in an Arsenal shirt.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. He is. He looks exhausted, and this is what I was really concerned about, because I knew, I was like, these guys, like, especially someone like Declan Rice, that what he just did for us this season, the effort that he just put in, and then to come into this England team where without him, I'm sorry, but England isn't getting very far. Like, he's, especially because of the back line currently with England, and Declan is kind of like holding all of that together. So, and he knows that, right? Like, he knows that he has this massive responsibility, and he's not going to slow down until he's told to slow down, and it does worry me.
Well, yeah, he'll keep running until he's like, yeah. There's a film, Monty Python film, the Holy Grail, and there's this knight that, like, his arm gets cut off and his leg gets cut. It's just a flesh wound. I'll keep going. I'll keep fighting, and that's going to be Declan Rice. He's just going to keep going until literally he collapses on the floor and dies. Basically, he's his own worst enemy because he just wants to do everything at his best. Yeah.
I mean, hopefully he can just have a very long break after this is done, and hopefully Mikel doesn't call him up for preseason anytime soon. I'm currently torn because on one hand, I'd be totally fine if all of them went home next week. But I am going to be in so much pain if Mexico makes it into the quarterfinals.
Yes, I saw that.
So I'm like, just one more.
I'll come to you in September. Yeah. And remind you of that if Declan Rice is still playing football.
No, that's true. That's good.
How much pain are you in now?
Yeah,
so
that's true. Ultimately.
Ultimately.
That is a good point.
Yeah, and look, Saka's also clearly not fit. They're just wheeling him on, and he's playing at 50%. So again, my fear is we won't see them.
I worry about Saliba also and Gabi. Like, those two players have also, they played a lot of minutes. They're both very much needed for their national teams. They're all, these are all teams that are expected to go far. Like, I was like, okay, we have all these players. Like, that's a lot of the squad that could potentially, if anything happens, like, that could risk how the season starts off.
And look, we're talking about it in a bit, but yeah, it should influence how we do our transfers, what we get. You can see why the rumours about Bruno Guimaraes are there, because we don't have a Declan Rice replacement. We've got lots of midfielders, but we don't have someone with that sort of maybe physicality, dynamism, in terms of what he does. So I think it will influence our summer transfer market. And you're right about Saliba. Again, luckily maybe we've got a bit more cover there, but I think this World Cup, and this is what we're going to get into with Dr. Mitchell, is around the impact of the World Cup, how much rest and recovery, because I reckon the first 5 games of the season, and because then there's a 4-game international break after the first 5 games of the season. So again, hopefully there's just some common sense there, but I reckon we don't see some of these players till October or properly, because
very good quality.
Yeah, so it's nuts. But on the flip side, for them personally, I'm happy for them personally, but just lose and get home, please. That's as far as I'm concerned.
I also like, I feel like especially the England players, I feel like they would all say that it's club over country. Like, I genuinely feel like most of them feel that. There's other countries where I feel like, that's not necessarily the case.
Brazil for sure is definitely
Exactly.
country over club. Yeah.
Yeah, and even France to an extent. I think that the French team has this like really strong camaraderie. Maybe Saliba wouldn't necessarily think that, or feel stronger one way or another. But yeah, I think England especially, there's just this like tribalism in English football that it kind of like feels like most people prefer the
Yeah,
successes of the
and
club.
and that seems to be a way as also with the fan base as well. A lot
Yeah,
of the Arsenal, but I would say 99.9% of Arsenal supporters, and maybe that's an exaggeration, would say England win the World Cup or Arsenal win the league,
thousand.
win the league, yeah,
It's
all the time.
great. Like I always find it so fascinating, but I think it's just like it's that tribalism, and it's honestly pretty unique to England.
Well, this is a very good segue. Look at this. It's as if I'm a professional. But a little segue into now being an Arsenal fan, but also with where you are in America. So there's it's a bit of a broad question here, and then we can whittle it down. But what is it like being an Arsenal fan in America? I mean, you also wrote a substack on this topic, where English football lives in America. So yeah. So what tell us more about that experience, how Arsenal came to you, and what's it like supporting from afar?
Yeah, look, I was not a sports person whatsoever growing up. I tried I tried to get into sports, but I have never gravitated towards American sports, especially. My husband, we've known each other for years, since we were like 20, so almost 20 years. And he's from Jamaica. As a young boy, has been supporting Arsenal. It's, you probably know that football is very big in Jamaica. So that kind of, that's how I did not know about Arsenal. There were three clubs that I knew that existed up until I was 20. And it was Manchester United, Real Madrid, and Barcelona. Those were the only three that I knew by name. And yeah, so I heard of Arsenal for the first time in college. Even then, it was just like in passing because of my now husband. But it wasn't when we moved in together, was when was shortly after NBC bought the rights for the Premier League in the US. And that's when I really realized like, oh, this isn't just like a sport. This isn't just like, for fun. Started witnessing the waking up at 7:30 in the morning and watching games, and just like the obsessive nature. And when we went to London together in 2017, this is before we were married, we went to the Emirates, and it was, I was like, we're going to check this off your bucket list. You're going to, you're going to experience this. And I couldn't believe what I was walking into. I did not know what to expect, and it was life changing. And since then, it was a slow, getting to be to where I am today of being a massive fanatic. It was a slow
Quite the
process.
transition.
Yeah, and I mean it is incredible, and we now have spaces to watch games. Like my husband didn't have that growing up. He didn't have that when we were in college. That was not something that he could not have gone to a bar and just had watched games. Like there were one or two places where if it was a bit available, like a random Champions League match was available, like maybe they would put it on. But that was about it. And now we have we have communities. Like every city I travel to, I identify the Arsenal bar in that city, and there's usually one. If there's not one like dedicated bar for Arsenal, there's a football bar where all fans from everywhere go and hang out and watch games together. And I love it. I've had conversations with people about how weird it is to watch games in the morning. I'm obsessed. I love waking up at 7 o'clock in the morning and, making my coffee, and then getting back into bed and watching, watching a game at
It's
7.
good. It's good if we win because it sets up the day. If you lose, it's a long day ahead.
Oh, like for example, that Aston Villa game away that we lost at the last minute. I was a 7:30, that was at 9:30. I'd been awake for 2 hours, and I immediately was just like, okay, lights off. I'm going back to bed. Not doing this day. No. Yes, it sucks when it's a loss, but and I mean, we wake up. The culture here is really, we're waking up and we're watching all of it. We're Premier League fans are watching all the games, like not just the team that you support, which is really cool. And I think that it's a unique feature of being an American Premier League fan, because it is a lot more common than you think, but it's still very niche. So when we find each other, there's a little banter, but because we're like part of the same club, there's
Wider
this
community,
automatic we like
respect.
attach.
So respect for what you do, and you appreciate the other person's situation. So
Yeah.
that Man United fan or that Aston Villa fan is getting up at 7 o'clock like you do, having to suffer like we all do, sort of thing. Yeah.
It's honestly, it's really cool. And I don't do it because it's just too much, but people go to the bars at 7:30 in the morning. Like they're watching at the bar, like especially in the cities and stuff. And it's just really the sense of community that is around it is just really awesome. And I also think that the Premier League has done a great job. This is two things that why I think this is like this. On one hand, NBC has done an excellent job with being the broadcasters for the league. They're excellent representatives. Their whole mantra has been to have it be the most authentic version of the Premier League. So in terms of the coverage, the commentators, everything is very English. So it just feels
even the pundits. Who are the pundits on NBC?
On NBC, you have Tim Howard and you have
That's
Robbie
right.
Earl and Robbie, and then obviously Rebecca Lowe as the host.
Yeah.
And exactly. Like it's the type of coverage is, there's a very, the English style of commentary is very specific, very monotone, very conversational, very chill, versus the American loud way that people are seeing on Fox right now. And so because of that, I think NBC has done a really good job, especially because of the twice a year fan fests that they do across the country. And we just went to our first one this year.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, it's an incredible experience, and it really does just like bring people in, and there's fans from teams from all over, not just Premier League fans. We're seeing people like fans from La Liga, from Bundesliga, like all over. And then of course the Premier League itself has really committed to growing its footprint here in the United States with this summer series that they've done twice now. And I think, even without the summer series, clubs are coming here every summer to have friendlies, and it's just like helping a lot. And then of course the American owners, all the different clubs is also a huge part of all of that as well.
No,
So.
I've seen that, and look, I've had a couple of people on here before, from because like Arsenal America and all the different clubs, associated clubs with you see it on the socials, like they all meet up at the bars, and I said and I've met and know Matt from Brew City Gooners and stuff like that, and I've sort of met him at the Emirates, but had him on here. There's a guy called Detroit Gooner as well, who's very prominent and talking about Messi. But you just see that one of Arsenal's biggest podcasts is run by an American and stuff like that, and they're doing a lot to spread the word. So you can see it just growing and growing and growing, and even in Budapest, I'm sure there are many. I met a fella who came over from Texas to Budapest for the Champions League final, and it seems to be one of the biggest fan groups outside of the UK, and I've even been to I think the bar you go to, is it O'Hanlon's in New York occasionally. I think I went there to see the Newcastle Arsenal game when we lost 1-0 with that header that should never have been a goal.
Wait, I think I was there that day. I think I was there that day.
You were there, yeah. I was over for the for the marathon, and so I didn't drink, but I made sure because that was an evening game here. It was like a 12 o'clock
That's right.
kickoff
Yeah,
in New York. So I went there. I'm pretty
that's
sure it was
funny.
at Handman's.
I remember that perfectly. Actually,
Yeah.
I was really pissed off after that game.
I think everyone was. So and then also I've travelled with work. I travel with work. I used to anyway before COVID was go to LA a lot, and I wasn't so into. I didn't know so much about the supporters group, and I know in the LA area there's like 5 or 6 of them, and but I know that experience of waking up and seeing Arsenal lose to Aston Villa. So not the most recent one, but in the past. But and also I used to live in New Zealand, so you say getting up at 7 o'clock. I used to get up at 4. No, I used to get up at 3:30 in the morning to
Yeah.
walk to a techno bar on a Monday morning before work. There was no sound on the TV, but they'd show the game, but had a techno beat in the background, watching Arsenal back in the early 2000s. So yeah, I feel your pain in terms of getting
It is
up
commitment.
and
It's commitment to,
yeah.
follow all, the club from all over the world. But, we do, it's like,
Yeah,
it's just
and there's no difference between. I mean, look, I'm fortunate enough that I've got a season ticket and I get to go and all the rest of it. But there's no different in terms of our feeling for the club or how we appreciate it and what we want from that. And it's just yeah. And like how often have you been to the Emirates? Have you got? Because you also came over for the parade recently, didn't you?
Yeah, I
How
did.
was that?
Oh, my God, obsessed. We're trying to go once. This has been like for the past few years. It's like a goal to make it over to a game once a year. Um, and this past season, at the start of the season, we're like, we're not going to go. The last 2 times that we went, you know, we lost 2-0 to Aston Villa at home, and then PSG at home. So we were like, okay, we're not going to go this season. We cannot mess with the universe. Clearly, we're bringing some bad juju here, so we're not going to London. But we kept saying like, okay, but between us, like if we win anything, we have to go to the parade. And so, of course, we did that, and it was amazing. I mean, the fact that like we were able to watch, unfortunately, us lose to PSG in final, but in London, in a pub with all the people, that, and on top of going to a parade, is just like a weekend I will never forget. It was just beautiful and incredible, and
It's nuts that you came over specifically for that, just for the parade. I mean, I was unfortunately still in Budapest. I wasn't able to get back in time just because it just got stupidly expensive and
yeah, I heard.
and whatnot. So had things worked out, it would have been a good place to be. But yeah, such is life. But I had friends who went to the parade but yeah, I mean, tell me about. There must have been just so, and I'm sure there was a lot of people that travelled over from the US to be in the parade. That travelled from all over Europe, and I even heard from Australia and stuff like that. It must have been just an incredible experience, and really helped sort of bring to home how disparate and connected we sort of all are at the same time, and then the diversity.
Yeah.
Every creed and colour is represented, and then also, I don't mean it's about how well behaved, but just how brilliant it all went and what an atmosphere it created, and like a million people on the streets. It was insane.
It was incredible. I mean, I've known for a long time that this fan base is something special, but seeing it live like that was, I mean, I get chills. It was just it was so awesome. It was just happiness. Like, I have never seen English people so happy. I mean, granted, it was just the English Arsenal fans, but still, I've never seen so many smiles and so many just like, just excited faces. It was awesome. I, I was like, I wish I could, sell this emotion, because this is like, so like, I don't think it's replicable. I genuinely worry that I will never feel like that again, between, the day we won it, the days after being there. Like, I worry that I will never feel that again.
Yeah, it is, and this is what always people who don't follow sport and I don't get it, or turn their nose up at sport. in no other walk of life, it's impossible to have the emotional feelings that sport, but in our case, football, gives you. Nothing in life gives you those euphoric moments. Like you get the highs and lows, fine. And what makes the highs so good is experiencing the lows. But nothing gives you this. I can't think of anything that gives it. And people turn their nose up it, and it's sort of like, oh, you're the one missing out.
Yeah, no, 1,000%. I'm like, I don't even try anymore when I see people saying that kind of stuff. I'm like, I can't. I don't. You don't want to understand. You don't have to understand. That's fine. You're missing out on like one of the most beautiful feelings. And obviously, when you have to go, like you said, you have to go through the bad times to really appreciate the good times. But yeah, it's just that.
I'm really pleased. I'm pleased for you and many people that managed to experience that. And I know my son, was there and stuff. And I think a lot of people managed to experience the winning the league in so many different ways. And I think that was very special for everyone involved. And I think gave over, and the fact that it was over a number of days, there was multiple chances to experience it. And if you missed one, then you go to the other. And I think it's amazing. And look, and we're still basking in it now because. It pops a picture, on the socials. Oh, look, there's a bit about the parade again. Or there's a picture of us with the trophy. Or it's nice just living that daily sort of thing. And Declan Rice from the champions of England.
Something that's been really fun is that Arsenal is like the most represented non-national team, like football team currently right now in the entire country. It does not matter what venue I go to, whether it's at MetLife, at a bar, walking around, people are wearing Arsenal merch. Like if you're going as a neutral to a game and you don't support either team and you're an Arsenal fan, you're wearing something that's Arsenal related. And it's been jubilant. Like walks by a couple of guys the other day who just started chanting Arsenal because they saw, me wearing some Arsenal merch and my husband wearing some Arsenal merch. People are just like, the excitement has just been like constant. Like no matter where we are, what we're doing, it's, we're celebrating with each other.
No, that's great. And I said, you're not in Islington. We're talking about New Jersey here and stuff like that. So that's incredible. Just going on a bit of a tangent and just football in general and the stuff that you write but linked to this, you did a substack on the Americanization of English football. And so what do you mean by that? And is it a good thing? So what is it?
Is it a good thing? No, I don't usually think Americanizing things is a good thing, to be honest with you. What I do think is that it's very clear that, so something I have been wondering is at what point will there be a situation where the Premier League and Premier League clubs are like, okay, we need to be making more money. Because, you guys have it really good with the pricing situation over there. I'm very jealous. I'm not going to lie. But at some point, like, there's going to, they've got to make money off of tickets, right? That's my logic. That has been my assessment is that is happening through these, like, through club seats, hospitality, certain experiences. I think in that article, I use Aston Villa as an example. So, and Southampton as an example about what they're doing to create experiences on game day. And that's something that we're very familiar with is like, when you go to a game here, doesn't matter what sport, it's like the whole day. Like you're, between getting to the stadium, because it takes forever to get to a stadium. You can't just hop on a subway normally and just walk into a stadium. It takes the whole day. You're there, you tailgate, there's some family activities inside. You go into the stadium like an hour and a half early. You get more drinks, you get more food. And it's like, the whole day is around this activity, right? Versus in the UK especially, but also in the rest of Europe. I love that, I don't have to take my whole day to go watch one game, like I can just grab a snack on the way, walk up, take the tube, walk up to the Emirates, get into the stadium and just watch the game. And it's not like, the whole big deal. But there's with the ownership that, the increase of American ownership, I just think that there's going to be this like merging of of experiences is what I keep using the
and how
term.
they monetize us, basically.
How do you monetize it? Because it's all
Well,
about
yeah, well, they actually have started doing that. Arsenal now. You said the experiences, and a bit like I think Tottenham with their glass, in the tunnel and stuff like that. So now the lower tier seats behind the dugouts. I think they've kicked out some of the youth players or families or whatever like that, and now you can pay top dollar for those, and you'll have sort of a player tunnel experience, as you say.
yeah.
I think they've started to do that at the Emirates. And yeah, it's a bit like, and you often see it on. I think it's NFL or NBA. You often see like fans who are sort of cordoned off, but it's tunnel area. As players are either walking in or out and stuff like that.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I think you're right. And you can just sell it. You can sell it, and people will pay for it. And
Oh, yeah.
they're just like, what more can I sell? What more can I sell?
The MLS club that
Yeah.
where we follow here, it's just like a couple miles away from us, and Red Bull New York. And they just did a thing where you can pay a membership and have access to a private club, but then you also get pitch field access to see the players warm up. And that's it. That's like the only perk is that you can walk onto the pitch. It's roped off, and you can be there during the warm ups. And so however long that is. And I'm like, who is paying for this? I'm sorry, this isn't like
People are paying for it. People, I know it's bizarre. People wouldn't pay for it, and I think there's going to be something similar at Arsenal, and the prices are just astronomical on a match by match basis. But yeah, people want to do it. People want to get closer to the action. People want to be more.
And people, and this is where I get worried, because this is like we're kind of seeing it with the World Cup, right? The prices have restricted diehard fans. So I can hear the differences in the atmosphere levels, right? Like, I can tell that these aren't the people who normally would be going to World Cup games. So what happens what's going to happen when that's at the club level and you're pricing people out, and how is that going to change the atmosphere? How is that going to affect, the whole culture? So, it's a really difficult balance. And, that's why I kind of used, Southampton and Aston Villa as kind of trying to do Americanize it, Americanize and monetize is basically like synonymous. Trying to monetize experiences and fan culture, while also kind of keeping things very like similar to what the English culture
Yeah,
is
I mean,
like.
and that sort of ship has sailed. The whole idea, like, when I started, like, a couple of quid to go in, and all the rest of it, being able to go walk up and get in. I mean, that ship has long sailed. But there still needs to be a balance, because I think what people don't realize, and even like the likes of Sky and stuff like that, without the fans, there is no product. And if the ideal fan, I'm sure this is not true, but they always talk about the ideal fan is just someone who goes to the club shop, spends money at buy food and drink, watches a game, blah blah blah, and they only come once. And if I can repeat that on every single occasion, I'm making. Yeah, but if you can get someone repeating that, because if I do that once, I'm not going to then spend the same amount every time. So you've got someone repeating that, yeah. But then you lose the essence of what a being a football fan is, and what the essence is, and you miss that tribalism. But and I think there needs to be a balance. So if I hate the moniker, but the tourist fan. So there needs to be a balance, and there needs to be a space for the tourist fan, because when I go to America, I've been to MetLife to see the Jets. I've been to SoFi to see the Rams, and the Rams are my team, so that's why I wanted to go. I've been to the Ring to see the Chicago Bulls. I've been to see the Nets. I've been to Dodger Stadium, and so because I'm a sports fan and I love doing that. So there needs to be a space for that, but it needs to be the right balance. I think.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've had no problem. Like, I mean, listen, some of the hospitality prices for like at the Emirates is like what it costs to just go to a game, non-hospitality here in the United States.
Wow.
So like,
Okay.
I genuinely like, I much prefer just, not paying those prices, but like at the same time, it's like, I think there's some self responsibility here as an American also to be like, I'm not going to take the seat away from someone else when, this is, we're used to this. Let's just do it this way, even if we're not taking advantage of some of the more affordable costs. And like we've sat hospitality before. It's fine. Like it definitely isn't the same atmosphere as some of the other sections in the stadium, but like I think there has to be that, and it I know that there's already laws to protect from resales, but it's still an issue. I still see people talking about it. Still see people saying that they purchased tickets from
Well,
StubHub.
yeah. It's illegal, but it's and it's got a lot better, but it's still harder to police. No, absolutely. People pay the price online, and you take the risk. And again, so it's not like in the US. I know if I'm buying off, StubHub or where Viagogo or whatever, I know that's genuine. And then the issue is with StubHub or Viagogo, blah blah. And a bit like you said, you had the issue the other day with your tickets where it gets sorted out. Those are allowed. Here, you are not allowed to resell it. You've got to use the official TX ticket exchange for Arsenal, and so that's fine. And if you good luck with that as well, with that one. So people, if they're coming over to Arsenal for the first, they're only one chance. Yes, they will pay a scalper, a tout, or whatever they're called,
which I don't
because it's your one
understand.
chance.
Just buy the hospitality. I'm like, just you're probably going to end up paying a little bit more than the scalp ticket, but like.
You're guaranteed, and you know what you're getting, sort of thing.
At least it's going straight to the club. At least,
Yeah. There you go.
That's my logic behind it. But I agree. I think it's going to be really interesting. We'll see. With all these different stadiums. I mean, United is about to build a brand new situation.
Circus tent, isn't it? By the looks of things. Yeah.
That's going. That's going to be full of spectacle and all of the Americanized features. And, it looks like Emirates is potentially getting a little facelift as well. So we're probably going to see some things
if
there.
we could get anything approximate to the SoFi, then I'd be up for that, because that is one hell. That's one hell of a stadium.
Yeah, it's an incredible stadium. It really
ridiculous.
Really is.
Yeah.
I worry about the soul part of it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful stadium, but I hope it doesn't change. I hope it doesn't take over too much.
Yeah, unfortunately, money rules, but there we are. But that's where it goes. And another article you wrote, again, just to sort of share what you've written and stuff. You also wrote about women are reshaping football culture, commerce, and the digital engagement. How is that? What is it particular about the female supporter that is making football different, or supporting football different, or the culture around it?
So men have a certain type of, temper and
temperament, you mean?
Yes. I just think that women bring a balance to the whole conversation. I think it's so funny.
You should be in some of the groups that I'm in then.
No, but no, for real though. I get people trying to banner me all the time online. Like I'll post something and then I'll get people in the comments trying to poke fun at me or try to say something to piss me off. And I'm like, that's not going to work with me. I'm like, I'm a 30-something-year-old woman. You're not going to upset me right now. I'm not going to cry. So give up. And I just feel like I live and breathe Arsenal. I live and breathe the sport. But at the same time, I think that we know how to manage our emotions a little bit more, and we tend to be more accepting than men initially. Not that to say that men aren't accepting. I just think that it's just how we're used to having to deal with bias and discrimination to some extent. So I think it's really important for women to be participants in the sport, and whether we're coming in through the women's game or we're coming in through other channels, it does not matter. I think it's amazing. I think what Arsenal have been doing is awesome. I love that the inclusivity of the club. I love how it is a unified club. It's not the men's team and the women's team. It's both. It's Arsenal Football Club, and I love that. I love that the fan bases are, mixed together, more and more especially. And I think it's really important. I think we're gonna help grow. We're not just helping growing the game, but we're changing the way uh, the sport is talked about. It affects so many different aspects. I mean, merchandise. We saw like Adidas launched that crop top, that
In the white
third,
one, yeah, the white for the third white kit. Yeah,
which
yeah,
I've
yeah.
been screaming for years. Just make merch that's specific to women. Women will buy it, and it sold out instantly. It sold out, and then they went on and started launching it for every club basically, and they have it for national teams now. And it's just like the simplest thing. Make stuff geared towards women. Women are the shoppers in the households. Women are they're the ones that are paying attention to the stuff. So when you start marketing towards women, you're automatically opening up a whole channel of opportunity that you weren't exposed to before. And I'm just a believer that having multiple perspectives, panel with women involved in it is a stronger panel than one without. And I hope, I love that like we're slowly seeing like more women refs in the game.
Well, yeah. There's been games with the whole the two assistant refs and the referee have been women and stuff like that. And
Yeah, great.
So what? So what? Well, it should be the point. It's not even a point of discussion. So what? Okay, great. They're there is good, and they know how to referee. What is interesting when you see that is the reaction of the players. Now, I prefer it if a player gives the woman ref as much verbals as he would give a male ref, because then that's equality. Jokingly, but do you know what I mean? Though, but he's not having. He's happy to. Fine, you've made a shit decision, and I'm going to tell you, and I don't care who you are.
I've had the same thought as well too. And well, did you see? I think it was Gary Lineker that said the other day that he had a couple years ago after Leicester got relegated, he reached out to Leicester City, to the owners, and recommended Emma Hayes to be their manager.
Well, yes, I saw a headline. I didn't delve deep into it, but I saw something
And
like that,
I was a little I was surprised. I was like, oh, I mean, interesting. Like that's cool. I would love to see a day when a woman is managing a men's team. I think it's not going to happen for a while. I think someone like Emma Hayes, even though like I will get hate for saying that because she should stay in the women's game. I do agree with that. But someone like Emma Hayes would be so good in the men's game also. She has like her personality. Again, what is up with all these Chelsea people? And I need to stop complimenting these former Chelsea.
Is she still manager of the US women's team?
Yes, she is. And
yes,
I mean,
yes.
she's killing it. She's doing, I mean, she's, yeah.
Well, she's now at the moment, actually, what she's been doing is that during the ad breaks, she's actually been doing a tactical chalkboard board around what's been happening, and but what I think is amazing, like that 20 minutes, and look, she should be able to do this, whatever, be able to then be succinct, get a point across, and pinpoint something out of the first. I'm not going to say quarter, first 23 minutes to do that. The only thing is they've put her in an environment that looks like a bloody kitchen. And it's like, for God's sake.
I don't get that. That is like why. Like was that necessary, really?
I'm pretty sure it was not deliberate. It just looks that way as opposed to being.
I hope it wasn't. But this is why it's important to have people looking at like, okay, maybe let's not do it here and let's do it over here.
Yeah, exactly. But
I mean, she's killing it. Yeah, she's doing great.
But back to your obsession at Arsenal, and let's close it out. And looking ahead to next season, if we have players available, and talking about, what are you hoping for in terms of the transfer season, and what are your thoughts? With the season ahead, how do you think it's going to pan out?
Oh God, I think everything will ultimately depend on transfers and injuries as usual. I think that we can win a second Premier League title. I think we can. First of all, in terms of transfers, we need a left winger. No offense to Martinelli and Trossard. I love them both dearly. I think that we need to be at a higher level. There's no one that I want is available. Like I want Kvaratskhelia. Like that is you give me that person, don't give me any more transfers. I don't care. That's like the only person I want. But that's not going to happen. Or Diomande, he's been excellent, but that also looks unlikely. And
Yeah, he's
also
PSG.
the valuations of these players these days, this is getting absurd. I'm not understanding how we're normalizing something that is not normal whatsoever. But I think it's important. We need to bring in a left winger. We should go for a young striker that we can develop. We're good with Kai and with Victor. Jesus is obviously going to leave, so we should bring in someone that can, have time to develop there. We need someone to Bruno Guimaraes. I want that to happen. I do. Even though every time I watch him play, I'm like, I cannot stand you, but if you come to Arsenal,
We're going to love him to bits.
And another attacking midfielder. I have a feeling Moneri is going to leave. So, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Odegaard leaves either, even though I don't want him to, but I think he might leave. So we'll see what happens. We might end up needing a couple more attacking midfielders, but I also don't want we can't do too much, like we have a good thing. We just won the Premier League. We got to the Champions League final. If we change too much, then we might have to restart the whole process again. So I think that we can just do with three, bring in 3 or 4 players at most, and I think we should be okay.
Yeah,
especially if we're bringing in someone like a Bruno Guimaraes to allow Declan to rest properly, give that kind of and then if we bring in a solid left winger to that is really impactful, then we can toy around a little bit with Saka getting more rest and Madueke being taking charge of the right wing, at least to start the season. We have a decent start to the season. It gets tricky in December, I think, November, December, January. So if we can have everyone fit by then, I'm kind of okay with having a slow start, as long as we're, still getting our wins in and
yeah, I think the pressure's off a bit. We also know that if we lose a game, drop a couple of points, it's not the end of the world type stuff. So we just need to. I think we'll be less angsty compared to this season.
I cannot wait. I don't even know what that means. I don't even. What are we going to be like next season? I don't know.
Well, hopefully more chilled. That's all, because I cannot go for another season like last season. It ended me. It absolutely ended me. But yeah, let's see. I think the World Cup will have a massive impact. The thing is, who we can go for. One, they're going to be at the World Cup, and two, our options are so small because we're already so good. So it's about what can take us to the next level. Because again, if we don't improve, then you go backwards. So we still need to build on it. I mean, if you could just give me a fit squad, no injuries, maybe I'd take that over bringing anyone in.
I completely agree. Yeah,
that would be amazing.
If I could have the option of just guaranteed no injuries all season, I don't need anyone else to come in. I'm happy with our team. I really am. So I agree with you on that.
Yeah, the thing is, winning the Premier League back-to-back, we haven't done that since the 30s. So okay, choice, Champions League or Premier League next season?
Oh.
Or Carabao Cup? No, I'm joking.
No. I think, I don't know. See, my heart says Champions League, but my head says Premier League. I just need everyone to just shut up. And if winning the Champions League is the only way to do it, then, so be it. But winning back-to-back Premier Leagues would be amazing. I mean, that would be really the, nail in the coffin. This isn't just a one-time thing. We're here for the long haul. Don't mess with us. But then, for my ego, I just want the Champions League. So I guess, it depends on the day. But no, ultimately, at the end of the day, I think a Premier League, especially, going to Pete is, is better, I think.
Interesting.
Te-
Very good.
you know, having 38 weeks being the best over the course of that period is truly the definition of being the best versus like a shorter format tournament.
Yeah. No, I'll take either. So,
It's
but
true.
if I had to choose,
I knew that was an answer.
I'll go Champions League, partly because I've already got my flights and accommodation booked for the
That's
final.
fair.
But there we go. Well, I've got my flight there. I haven't booked my flight back yet. Right. Anyway, look. Right, we're 84 minutes in. So look, Carla, this has been fantastic. Really, really appreciate you coming on and chatting with me
for having
today.
me.
Yeah, and hopefully it's not the last time. But let people know where they can find you on the socials and your Substack, if you can remember.
Yeah, I'm at Carla Espinal on all my socials, on IG, on Threads. That's primarily what I use. And on Substack, Football Without Borders. Have it linked on all of my pages if you want to go check it out.
Yeah, no, do that. It's an interesting read, and you can look, if you've liked what you've heard today, there's a lot more of that on there. So anyway, look, I hope you enjoyed that, and you can follow also the Grove at the Grove AFC on Threads, Blue Sky X, Insta, TikTok, YouTube. Obviously the podcasts, Apple and Spotify, and look, if you like what you hear and like to hear more of this sort of thing, then please give us a like, a subscribe, comment, 5-star rating. It helps with the algo, helps with getting it into the ears of the people less fortunate than yourselves. So that would be greatly appreciated if you can do that. And as I said at the beginning, next pod will be taking a look at Arsenal's medical staff changes and the situation around that, also around player welfare in terms of the season ahead, pre-season, and the impact of the World Cup with an expert view. I'll be just asking the questions, and I have an expert actually making sense for a change in the pod. So keep an eye or an ear out for that. So all that leaves me to say is thank you for listening. Fuck Trump, fuck Infantino, fuck ad rates disguised as hydration breaks, but go USA. Go USA, and until the next time, come on you Gunners.